So you guys have been asking for this for a while now, and we recently hit 1k followers on Twitch, so it's only fair that I finally get to it. For those of you who are new here, I go by Guapi, and I'm currently one of only a couple of players to be using Revenant's unique movement tech in-game. The video is going to be split into chapters: how to wallrun chain, where to wallrun, what maps and locations are the best, how useful the tech is compared to other movement tech, and some useful Revenant tips to get you on your way. So without further ado, let's get into the Revenant movement guide. So you're probably wondering why I'd be making a guide on a year-old movement tech, but only recently have you seen DapperCat and I using this tech to style on people in-game. So both Mokey and Dapper have excellent movement guides on this tech, which I will have linked in the description. So why would you watch mine? Well, hopefully the intro has enticed you enough, and maybe you'll stick around to find out. And of course, most of you guys are recognizing me to be that one guy who's wall running everywhere on TikTok and on those Apex Clip YouTube channels, so it'd be a crime to not capitalize on this. So it's worth noting that the reason this tech is even a thing is because of Rev's passive. His passive means that he can't actually hit a regular wall bounce like every other legend, because he'll go about half the height and distance for some reason. Don't know why, I don't know what the science is, but it's an issue, but it's kind of a blessing here because you can chain these smaller wall bounces on opposing walls, around walls with tap strafing, and if you incorporate wall running into the equation, you get some pretty nasty tech. I'm going to briefly go over controller and what it can do with this tech and what it can't do. If you are on console, you can chain smaller wall bounces and wall runs on opposing walls. So let's say you're in bunker and there's a wall on either side of you. If you play on a high enough sense, which you probably should be anyway, you can go from wall to wall just from wall bouncing. And you can do this in a lot of tight corridors available within the game. If you're on PC with controller and you bind tap strafing, which is a thing and there are guides out there, then I'm sure you can execute pretty much every piece of tech that I show in this video with maybe a bit of difficulty. So you guys are going to have to send me some clips of you attempting this with controller after you watch the tutorial, but it might be a thing, it might not be, I'm pretty sure it is. But just know that if you're on console, you might want to get moving to PC if you want to try this to its fullest extent. So yeah, you can do this on opposing walls with controller, but if you want to go around a wall, you're going to need to bind tap strafe. So to get started, it's worth noting that every legend in the game can hit a regular single wall run. You just have to run up to the wall, and as soon as you touch it, press a directional input of your choosing. So if you want to go to the left, I click A. If I want to wall run to the right, I click D, because WASD of course, depends what your binds are. And on controller, you would simply move the stick to the left or right as soon as you grab the wall. The reason why Revenant is so important for this tech is because you can chain it around walls within it. If you see me run up to this wall and wall run with Ash, I can't chain it here. I sort of just go up a bit, not only because of the high-end wall bounce and mantle, but I can't actually get on until I actually jump up. You also can't do it with a wall jump up on the corner. So if I wall run, once again, try to chain it, nope, I have to just jump up and re-chain it. So you can't chain it with every other legend, but on Revenant, it actually works, and it's because of his passive. So how do you do it? Well, we're going to break it down into steps. The first step is getting into the wall run itself. You can either jump into it or wall run into it. For example, if I'm here, I have to wall run into it first, or if I hit the corner of the wall, I have to jump into it first. That was a bit of a sloppy one, but if I hit the corner, jump into it, and go around. Depends on where you are, it depends on the scenario. So, to break it down into steps, we're going to do it here, and we're just going to jump into it, because I feel like this is going to be a bit easier to learn, especially considering that you're probably more akin to wall bouncing anyway. So, first step, hit the wall jump on the corner. Just a regular old wall jump or a wall run. Jump. Simple. Now, you're basically about to do 3 things at once. Well, kind of one after another, but very quickly. The next step to practice, you hit the jump. As you hit the jump, just as you press it, hit D. In this example, I'm going to be wall running right, like this. I'm going to be wall running this way, so I'm going to press D. If I'm going the other way, I'm going to press A. Need to go right, A to wall run left. It's just like, this is why I need to practice the regular wall run against the wall, because it'll make more sense. So I jump, and then hit D. The next step is to integrate the tap strafe. But of course, a tap strafe is also a movement that works with your camera position, so where you're turning. You need to be turning to the next wall. You're basically turning 90 degrees, as you can see me do every time I run at the wall, and now I'm turning to the left here. So jump at the wall, press D. Just do the wall jump, press D, and then turn to your left. So wall running to the right, but you're turning left because you need to face the next wall. And then, as soon as you hit that jump, you need to add the tap strafe in, which is scroll up. And when you add all of them together, you get this. It's very quick actions all at once, kind of 4 steps really. And do not be discouraged if this takes you a while. So slow it down once again. Jump D, tap strafe whilst turning to the next wall. You do not let go of your directional input. That's why the chaining works. You never let go of, right here, I never let go of D, not once. D is constantly held down in order to hit the next walls. If you let go of your directional input, you're just going to fall off. So if I'm holding it the whole way around, you can see me start to fall down. If I don't get a very good slide off, I may lose momentum, but there is a counter to that. The counter is that you add in another jump / tap strafe part way through your wall run. This is rarely ever needed from my experience. The thing is that these walls are quite long. Most wall runs are really going to take you about here. But what you do is that at this distance, if you've lost momentum, sometimes you can make the entire wall run around here with just 2 wall runs. But this wall is a bit tricky, but this will come in handy occasionally. Let's say I get to this point in the wall run, you're going to jump, look further to the right, and tap strafe. You're still not letting go of your directional input, so D here would still be held down, or A if I was going this way once again. You're just going to jump and tap strafe like this. Jump and tap strafe that way. It will give you a bit more momentum. So I'm running like this, and then I'm going to tap strafe. And as soon as I do that tap strafe, I hit this corner. So you're basically you're going to be there, and then you're going to jump here, and you're going to hit this corner, and you're going to have the momentum to bounce off of that one and repeat what you did at the first corner. And let me give you a little demonstration of this. So we're actually going to refer to DapperCat's keyboard overlay rather than mine, because I only use scroll wheel down to jump, and I'm aware that most people don't, and I would also recommend that you just use spacebar to jump when doing this anyway, because you'll probably be a bit more precise. So you can see here his keyboard overlay and how he does it step by step. I'll play it at normal speeds and slow-mo so you can see, and hopefully this will help you with the visual representation. You might be able to break it down in your head better. Maybe even give scroll wheel jump a try. I like it, the fact that I just, at each corner I scroll down and immediately scroll up, but I scroll up way more because the tap strafe needs to be quite sharp. So give both a go, whatever feels better you should use, but most people are going to be using spacebar to jump at each corner. So the best and most brief description I can give to you for this is that you are jumping and tap strafing around every corner whilst holding your directional input and not letting go of it. So jumping, tap strafing, obviously that includes turning. Turning is a part of the tap strafe. So jumping, tap strafing, turning to the next wall whilst holding the directional input. If you go with that mentality and you keep replaying that over your head, you'll have this down in no time. The hardest part here is obviously going to be the timing. If you play on a higher FOV, I play 110. If you are really good with 120, that's probably even better, because you can see the next wall and the corner of the next wall that's coming from the edge of your screen a bit easier. So higher FOV is definitely the way to go for learning this. So next we're going to go over location, routes and maps from worst to best for the wall run tech. So we're going to start off with Storm Point, easily the worst map for this. The huts all over the map are terrible. They've got slanted walls and obstructive vents on the outside. Curved structures and reliable walls, all with wide open spaces, are littered across this map. There's fences at down beasts that are viable. There's the 2-story buildings that are littered across the map. They're okay, they've got a couple of walls on the outside of them. There's walls on the tower rod of barometer, as well as pillars around there that are decent. There's small boxes on pretty much every map that are viable. Storm catcher walls outside of the building. There's pillars down below, and there's a couple of walls inside that are also, they're okay, they're a bit clunky. And then the best spot on Storm Point is Command Center, where you've got 2 staircases on either end of the corridor. Now, easily one of the best wall run spots in the game, very fun to use, but it's of course RNG based on whether you find people there. Overall, the map is terrible for it. It's got awkward terrain, slanted walls everywhere, wide open areas, and you spend more time running around than finding areas to actually wall run on. Kings Canyon is probably the second worst map in the game for wall running, which is surprising because Bunker is one of the best locations in the game for it. You can get easy infinite wall run and wall bounce chains in there, but unfortunately the fights there are pretty rare and really inconsistent from my experience. There's decent walls at Octane's Palace, there's a couple here and there, not too bad, nothing special. At Airbase there's walls on the outside of the buildings, you can get like a 1-2 little around the corner maybe, it's okay, nothing impressive. Those buildings are also littered across the map. There's a few walls at Salvage, there's a few walls at Market inside, you can chain them with the zips, which isn't too bad. There's walls on the backside of Caustic Treatment, they're pretty mid. Cage has some walls and zips. Repulsor has decent indoor wall runs and some viable walls on the outside of the small buildings, but the slanted bunkers are completely useless, and fights that are pretty common in those areas. Labs has a couple of small walls that are decent inside, nothing special. And then the cages of containment are actually pretty good. They're not common to fight on, but it's a good wall run spot overall. There's lots of okay wall run locations, but often the fights take place in areas where the wall runs are either ineffective or unnecessary. Bunker is pretty insane, but bunker fights are also rare. Most Casey fights don't work well with the tech due to building structure, unfortunately. Hitting a double wall bounce chain on the outside of the building is pointless when the fights usually take place inside with maybe caustic gas and whatever terrible legends you can find indoors. Now we're moving into the good maps. The second best map in the game for wall running is definitely Olympus. Oasis is arguably the best wall run spot in the game with tightly walled corridors around the top of a zipline shaft. You can infinitely wall run on these and absolutely wreck people. It's honestly borderline overpowered. It's a bit inconsistent due to fights obviously occurring around the building and you not being able to always catch people in the corridors, but it's nuts here. Bonsai Plaza has very good wall run spots at the bottom of the zipline buildings. Fights are pretty common down there, but up top is not great. Energy Depot has a couple of walls to chain on. Hammond Labs has great wall run spots on pillars around walls and down the staircases. Turbine has a few walls in the tunnels and the large corridors that lead to it. And there's a small vent tunnel that you can find in the same area where you can wall bounce chain it like Bunker, but it's a bit more difficult and a bit more tightly knit, a bit consistent. Overall, there's many excellent wall run spots with decent consistency in terms of fight rate. Unfortunately, half the map has structures with curved corners and walls which can be clunky to use. Popular spots such as estates and gardens are also not very good for wall running, so it's a mixed bag, but the spots that you can wall run at are absolutely insane. And last but not least, we have World's Edge, which is just the best map in Apex Legends, period, let alone for wall runs. And all the zipline buildings across World's Edge, so that includes Skyhook, Fragment, and Lava City, are all good for wall running. Outside of the buildings are great, the elevator shafts are great. Streamer building, or the 4-story in Fragment, has pillars, walls, and a curved elevator shaft can also be used. These can be wall bounce chained up by spamming jump and tap strafe. So basically doing the regular method, but you're spamming jump and tap strafe really quickly. And that works really well for me because I just use the scroll wheel to do it. The staircase leading to Vault Tunnel has a couple of wall runs. The other miscellaneous buildings all over Skyhook, Lava City, and Fragment have good wall runs inside and out of the buildings, especially the wide staircases in the 2-story building. And the buildings in the lower outskirts of Harvester also have a couple of spots. Okay, so now we're going to get into the advantages and disadvantages, as well as the wall jump comparisons of this tech. Wall jumps from the other legends are still overall more useful and versatile than Rev's wall runs. There's a vast amount of terrain that a wall bounce can easily be executed on in comparison to a wall run chain. Not only do regular wall jumps send you further and faster than Rev's wall bounces, but wall bounce, tap strafes, and fatigue from other legends is overall a stronger tech. Despite this, Rev's Wallrun still have their uses though. Not only is Rev's regular wall bounce awful, but the chaining of wallruns / bounces can actually seriously throw people off in fights sometimes. Unfortunately though, dead slides are the kryptonite of most movement techs, and Rev's is no different. Getting a dead slide whilst attempting a wallrun will often get you killed considering Rev's hitbox size and lack of disengage. For the best results, try to execute unpredictable wallrun patterns, but also do it fast. Getting a slide jump into the wall will always provide better momentum than just walking or tap strafing into it. Also, using it to get across gaps or around objects is important. Being conscious of the versatility of your passive will help you when fighting teams, especially in and around buildings. And of course, do your best to have fun, get creative, go style on people, and don't get too discouraged if you fail or throw when attempting to use it. It's incredibly frustrating tech to execute in-game, but the reward is in the satisfaction of outmaneuvering a team or just a single enemy player with such a large character. Due to a lot of you guys probably giving Revenant a try after this vid, I figured I'd throw in some general tips. Because of his hitbox, you should focus on using as many movement techs as possible to survive. Super gliding, tap strafing, wall bouncing, strafe lurching will all help you. It's important to be versatile when a wall run is not available after all. Using your tactical to cloud audio such as your own footsteps and healing during a fight will often save your life. Popping a silence on yourself with visual and audio clutter should be about second nature as popping a wraith phase. The concept is the same. Disengage is a crucial part of Apex, so you gotta work with what you have. That's why you'll see me throwing silencers behind me when running to block line of sight or deter a push, or if I'm pushing a team, throwing a silence down the route I'm pushing from can potentially prevent the enemy from hearing me running up. Don't count on this however. Rev still has a very loud footstep even when crouching. Speaking of crouching, Rev's crouch strafe is also superior to other legends, but not by too much due to his hitbox. The more discreet advice I can give for totem is similar to silence. Hiding in your totem when healing is sometimes a godsend, but using it to block doors and get distance from you and the 3 stacks cooking it down is also useful. Pop a totem on the door, making sure to wait a second for it to fully cast and then run, maybe even throwing an arc and a nade at the totem to either destroy it or detonate the enemies if they use it. And that about does it for the Revenant movement guide. I really hope you guys enjoyed it and found it useful. I'm not trying to cause an influx of Revenant players, I promise. As a matter of fact, this video is actually just made to promote my Twitch, my Twitter and my TikTok, but specifically my Twitch. If you want to watch me live and support the dream and interact with my community and I, then be sure to follow me at twitch.tv/guapi. If you want to see my individual clips, then check out my TikTok. And if you want to interact with me and see my Revenant movement montages, highlight reels and whatnot, and my stupid fucking tweets, then follow me on Twitter. All my links will be in the description. I really appreciate you guys and all the support you give me lately, it means the world to me. Hopefully one day I'll earn my spot in your Mount Rushmore of movement players, but until then, I hope you enjoyed, and have a nice day.